So in 2018, the World Economic Forum came out with a study that predicted, as many of you may have seen, that 133 million jobs will be created, due in large part to technology. Conversely, 75 million jobs will be adversely impacted by a lot of this technology change. I work for PwC, I'm a partner, and PwC, for those of you who don't know, is one of the largest professional services organizations in the world. We have about 250 million practitioners, 250,000 practitioners, and we provide advisory, tax, and audit advice for our clients. And the reason why I share that with you is because you'll see it on the list of 75 million that's adversely impacted. Number 7 is tax and assurance. So this was and continues to be an existential threat for us. The good thing is we're not alone. Our clients are actually going through the same problems, almost universally. We just published our 22nd annual Global CEO Survey, and some of the statistics that really stand out for us is that 79% of those CEOs don't believe that their workforce actually has the requisite skills in order to be successful. Similarly, almost half of them believe that retraining of the workforce is their number one priority. And interestingly, more than half of them don't really understand how the narrative is going to unfold as far as how technology will actually impact their industry and their companies. And so this all points to a similar problem set that we're having at PwC and with our clients, which is how do you retrain your workforce to future-proof them against technological obsolescence. And so for the next few minutes, what I'd like to do is just kind of describe to you our story of what we've done and hopefully share with you some of the best practices or things that we have learned that has allowed us to be successful. So before I go into the details of what we did, let me just give you a little bit of color commentary about why this was so important to us. So, as technology has come out, particularly with respect to artificial intelligence and machine learning and robotic process automation, or as some people call it, intelligent process automation today, as that technology has started coming out, we knew it was going to have a big impact on our business. And so we started looking at use cases and see what that would actually do to our auditing business, our tax business. And in short, what used to take an associate, say, 3 weeks to audit financial transactions, we can now build bots that reduce that to hours, if not minutes. And so for a time and materials-based business like we are, that could be disastrous. And we could either take it as a source of erosion of our revenue base, or conversely, as an opportunity for productivity gains. We obviously chose the latter. But the challenge for us really was how to do it at scale. And this is where this notion of business-led versus citizen-led really came to the forefront and has been critical to our success. So we decided early on that we could try to have this be a mandate by leadership, but we knew that if that was all it was not going to be embraced by our staff, and we were going to sub-optimize the results. And so our hypothesis was that if you really want to move fast, and you want to tap into innovation and innovative ways of really changing the ways in which our staff and our clients work, it has to be citizen-led. And so this notion of citizen-led has been a critical component of our success. So let's describe what we actually did. So we created a program called Your Tomorrow, and we deployed it to all our staff in the U.S., 50,000 professionals. And the intent of that program was to both acknowledge them and upskill them. And those are two very different concepts, but one building on the other. More than the assets, which I'll talk about in a second, that we deployed, what I'd like to just talk about are the four things that it's really the concepts behind deploying those assets that made it successful. So in terms of the acknowledging space, the first thing that we really employed was repetitive spacing. So we, in our experience, believe that if you're going to try to have someone retain a concept, it's that repetitive exposure to a concept over a period of time. So for us specifically, it was 4 times in 60 days, which allowed people to retain a concept. And so we created assets like what we call our digital fitness assessment. That was one of the first things that we deployed to help first baseline people's digital IQ, as we called it, on certain concepts like blockchain and IoT, machine learning, deep learning, and so on. And more importantly, based on that IQ, then curate content that could be pushed to them that would allow them to increase their fluency of those concepts. Another example is learning bursts. So these are short form content that was pushed on people's mobile devices and desktops, 5-10 minutes of learning on a specific concept, but they could easily digest that pretty quickly. The other thing that we did was develop a podcast, because many of our staff are on the road. They could download these 15-minute podcasts to learn about different technology concepts. And all of this was very successful in being able to drive adoption. And the one thread that you'll see in all three of those things, and this is the second sort of point of, I think, success factors, was having it be bite-sized, particularly for the enterprise. You know, we all have day jobs, and for us to take 2 hours out of our day to do a CBT or a computer-based training course, it's just not practical, it's not realistic. When it happens, typically the goal is to fast forward as quickly as possible so you can get to the test at the end. We recognize that early, and so this notion of bite-sized content that people could explore on their own time frame was critical in being able to drive past that barrier. The third concept was gamification. People have talked about that, multiple speakers this morning, but we've really integrated gamification into most of these assets. For DFA as an example, the digital fitness assessment, you get an IQ score. You can increase that IQ score based on your interaction with the content that's pushed to you. You also can compare yourself against peers. The other interesting one was power-ups. So this is a kind of Jeopardy style game that we host on a weekly basis, where individuals and teams can actually sign up and they can win money. And many actually win significant amounts of money based on their ability to test well for that game. And we have literally thousands of people on a weekly basis that actually participate in these. It takes about 10 minutes. And it's been particularly popular with our staff. They've described it as the most un-PwC thing that they've experienced at the firm, which we'll take as a sort of a backhanded compliment. The last lesson that I share with you is really in that applied learning space. So a lot of the assets that I talked about, really all it does is expose people to the content, but we knew that if we stopped short there, we were not going to actually drive business results. And so we tried very hard to figure out how do you give people both the immersion as well as the ability to practice those skill sets. So one of the things that we did was deploy Digital Academy. So these digital academies were not for everyone, but we invested in 10% of our workforce. We allowed them to self-nominate who they wanted to be, and we took them out for an 8-week period where we immersed them in a lot of these technologies and asked them to explore how they could actually change the way in which they work. The intent then is to put them back into the lines of service so that they can proliferate those ways of working to the other staff, and that's been a wild success. The other thing is personal trainers. Sort of a reverse mentorship idea where we've had a lot of our younger staff mentor our older partners, such as myself, on these new technologies. And that's been superbly successful in getting that cohort of people a lot more fluent in some of the technologies. And lastly, but not least, is our digital labs, which is right in the center. So we created digital labs as the virtual workbench that allowed our staff to essentially practice these new concepts. So they could download data sets, they could create their analytical models, they can create new RPA bots, data visualizations, and that was the one place where they were able to practice those skill sets and create digital assets of that output. And what that's allowed us to do is not only curate all of those digital assets, but then share it amongst the broader population. And that's what we talk about as being both citizen-led and a great example of how citizen-led allows you to scale faster. So I guess after all this, what are the results? I think the thing that's been uniquely successful about this program is that it was never a mandate. We did not say, you have to take this training. And what has been really impressive is that despite that, we've trained over 50,000 of our professionals, almost all. 90% have participated in one or more digital channels in our training program. And that's also resulted in tangible digital assets that have been changing the way in which we work. We have over 2,400 digital assets just in the last 6 months since we opened up our labs. And that includes different bots that people can download, different data visualizations, different analytical models, and that's been a real game changer for us as a business. So I would just, hopefully this gives you an idea of a real life example of a company such as PwC that is going through this large-scale technological change, and what we've done to upskill our workforce, and some of the concepts hopefully that you guys can take forward. So I thank you for your time.